What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the
YouTube Barber Academy.
And today is phase 3, how to cut the top. Building off the previous lesson, phase 5 of 6. And I hope that you're doing the homework prescribed in that lesson.
The edge up. Now, no edge up will be complete without using the razor to finish it up.
I need to cross-check it by standing this way. We finally reached phase 4, the blend. Today we're going to break down a flat top and learn some great tips about doing clipper over comb.
I do hope that you guys can take advantage of this playlist. Just head over to my channel, click play all. All 6 phases are done. There is 12 videos that are not only going to help you understand barbering, but they're going to give you a solid foundation so that you understand why you're doing what you're doing and you work your way through. Do the homework, do the practice suggestions, and you guys are definitely going to improve your skills.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the
YouTube Barber Academy.
Now today we're going to go through all 6 phases in this one simple video, and it's going to point you to some more in-depth videos on each subject. Now, before we get started, I want to thank these sponsors. First and foremost, we're going to thank Gamma. They make a lot of stuff possible. They make some great equipment, and if you need anything from them, use the code Eddie and you'll save 10% off. Also, you can use the code Eddie with 614 Barber Supply for anything that you're not buying Gamma. And also, I want to thank Booked In, an excellent scheduling app, and you guys will love it if you give it a try. You can try a month free, and the links for all this is going to be down below. Beginning with phase 1 of 1, we're going to prepare the hair, we're going to debulk the hair, we're going to be using our different technique, that alternate technique that I talked about. We're going to actually start this one off with a taper blade, and if you guys need to check out the taper blade versus fade blade video, you can always do that. All you really have to worry about in this particular segment is going to be just keeping a light hand. We're creating a little weight line because we're going to use clipper over comb to blend a lot of this out. I just want to get some of this big hair out of my way so I can see what I'm doing and I can set in that skin line. Setting in that skin line with the taper blade, that's actually going to give you a little bit more room. It's going to create a little less harsh line, and it's a great technique to use if you're not sure. But of course, when I'm setting in that taper line, if you notice how light my hand is as soon as I go to make the line. I'm not trying to make a super harsh line even with this. I want to make life easy, I want to make life fast, and I want to get into the rest of the phases. You can use like your finger or something to kind of just check both sides and make sure they're even. Following that, I'm going to be following it up with my trimmer, stopping shortly before I reach that line. This way I can get the hair all the way down to 5 zeros, and I'll be able to execute my electric shaver with ease. A lot of people ask me about using the corner of the blade. Just using that corner of the blade is going to prevent a big mistake. It's going to make it a little bit easier for you. So if you do make a mistake, it's going to be minimized. So I like to tip the trimmer on an angle, and I try to reduce the amount of mistakes that I'm making. Moving up with the electric shaver, we cover this very in depth in phase 1, but I'm flicking out away from the line. I'm only using one edge, or I'm using a single foil shaver that's going to give me a lot more control, and that's going to help me get them 2 lengths to meet perfectly. All right, so this is what we should be left with before we move into the next phase. And we have the clipper over comb video. I think it's the best one out there. We really broke down all the nuts and bolts of this technique, what you'll need, how you'll need, good visuals, and I've gotten a lot of great response from that video. So if you guys need to go a little further into this technique, go ahead and check it out. But for now, we're just going to say less is more. There's multiple different ways that you can move the clipper across the comb, but your comb needs to be like this immovable object. It should stay still. You shouldn't be banging into it with the clipper too hard. You don't want to be moving that length around. Your comb is going to help establish what you're doing, and other than that, we're going to begin cutting, lifting, pulling away, and analyzing what we're doing. You can also take note of the diagonal approach across the comb. That's just so that it doesn't get stuck on the teeth, and it allows the clipper to glide across the comb effortlessly. gonna see my finger slide up the side of his head, and that's actually part of what I'm anchoring on. I'm using the inside of my hand, my finger, the comb, and then when I touch it across the comb, I have a lot of stability there and I'm able to maintain consistency. And we really dive deep into the anchor points on this technique and on the shear over comb technique, and definitely on the razor as well. So the anchor points are a very critical way for you to maintain consistency across the board so that you don't make mistakes. And lifting your clipper vertically with your comb is going to work very similar to the way that a guard works. You're going to be able to kind of detail like a small spot and just try to make a small difference, and you can tilt the comb out towards you. You can keep the comb still in this case. Less is more. We got shear over comb on the way. Okay, so for the shear over comb portion of this haircut, we're going to make sure that he's thoroughly saturated. I have his hair totally wet. I'm going to pull it down so I can really see the spots that need work. I can really see the weight. Again, using that finger as the anchor point, sliding up the side of the head. We're doing our best to keep the bottom blade still, and we're just trying to move that top blade. And I'm trying to not chomp, move around my hand too much. And in slow-mo, that's kind of what it looks like I'm doing. But when you're actually moving quickly, you want to try to keep that blade as still as possible. It's going to lead to more accuracy. But there is some choppers out there that have learned that technique, and they can execute fine with it. But the idea, again, is like less is more. I'm going to lift, cut, and I'm going to comb that hair back down to reset. This technique can be super helpful to remove dark spots. It can be super helpful to help you shape your silhouette. It's just a technique that every barber should master. And then also using the back of your shears to kind of hold where your guide is so that you can keep kind of trying to dial that area in. And then of course we have our texturizing shears when that hair is just a little bit too thick and you want to make it lay a little bit better. Don't go crazy with these texturizing shears. If you over thin it, it's definitely going to cause you some light spots. That can cause you some problems. This is a technique that more often than not I reserve towards the end of the haircut. Alright, so when we start cutting the top, we're going to definitely start with the perimeter. I'm going to start by addressing the bangs, getting the bangs straightened out, just in case you have a client who wears the bangs. Now this client clearly wears his hair parted, so this isn't quite as important, but it's always a good place to start because we'll blend that back in afterwards. Then we're going to start with the mohawk section. We're going to take our little mohawk right in the middle, and of course we got graphics, we got everything you might want to know about this technique if you check out the full video up here in the card. But just for the sake of quick time, this is what our mohawk section looks like. We need to get this section perfect, and we don't want to be texturizing this section because we want to be able to follow it. Afterwards, you can feel free to point cut, you can feel free to you know, do whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to be moving back beside my guide. Again, my guide is in the middle, and I'm just taking a very small step off of it, and I'm working my way back in that little vertical section all the way back. Then I'm going to jump over to the left side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep working my guide, and then my guide section is growing, and I'm going to be able to deliver that hair right down to the sides. But again, we use some shear over comb, so there's not going to be a whole lot to do in that area. And then before I let this fly, this is a great time to go through, cross-check, make sure everything is perfect, and feel free to add some texture here so that your client's hair could have a little bit more movement, and maybe you can move more into the style that you want it. Now it's time to blend in the bangs. Now you do not need to cut that very front section. You can just sort of tip your hand on that angle and you can blend the interior length to the exterior length, because again, if you go to blend the bangs in and you just lop them off, you're going to wind up cutting the bangs shorter, and you've already established that length, so there's no need to redo it. Now at this point, I'm going to dry his hair up. I want to see how it's laying, and then I'm going to get into the blend, and I'm going to start connecting that 5-0 line to the top. So now I've basically created my end point at the top, and I've created my starting point at the bottom with my skin line. I could have done this a multitude of different ways, but this just makes the most sense, especially when I'm trying to build a lot of weight in the parietal ridge, because I want to keep that area dark for the contrast of the blend. Now for the moment that many of you are here for, the blend. Now I've set myself up to make this easy. I'm going to put the clipper in the open position, and I'm going to begin by making my guideline. Now a lot of times I like to actually start behind the ear because I want to see what effect that's going to have, and I want to see what effect that's going to have in a place where it's not going to make a big mistake, or where it's not going to make a mistake that I can't fix. So with that being said, I'm just going to travel and keep my guide the exact same width, and I'm going to follow that good line that I put in. And that's why it's so important in phase one that you make sure that you do your guidelines accurately, because they're going to be the foundation of the rest of your haircut. Once I've got that guideline in, then I can begin taking it out by closing the clipper one click at a time. If you got clicks, if not, just close it a quarter of the way, and we're going to begin going up close to that line. And as I get close to that line, I'm going to stop, I'm going to click it, and I'm going to start over again from the bottom. And I'm going to continue doing this all the way until I have my clipper in the closed position and that line is wiped out. Now, there's a few things that you can do if that line does not go away. You can work these corners. You can make sure that you get your blade flat. Now, if this clipper is not doing it, then you know that you can return back to the trimmer if you need to. So this is a step that I always try to advocate for. I always try to tell you guys to step back before you step forward and make sure that you're being thorough. This way you don't have a ton of cleanup work at the end. And of course, we got the whole video about the blend where we talk about nothing but this technique and we break down all the nuts and bolts, so I'm not gonna bother you guys too much about it today. So again, I'm coming back to that trimmer. Now it's a good time for you to really focus on using those corners, because you really don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to lay this whole blade flat because there might not be that much cleanup to do. So I just want to use that little corner and work that in. And now I'm getting my blend from skin, open taper, all the way up. I'm getting that blend done right, and I'm not going to have issues later. So now we can begin with our number one. We're going to put that in the open position. We're going to see what that does. Now, again, we've done a lot of our blend with clipper over comb and shear over comb, so you're going to find that this probably isn't going to take as much hair as it would if you did it in another technique. But again, my hands are staying super light. As I go up, I'm kind of flicking out, but at the very bottom, I'm making sure that I hold that blade flat. We talked about this a lot in a number of videos, but if you are holding the clipper too far away from your client, or if you're tipping it on some weird angle, you're manipulating the distance, and that's going to make it difficult for you to actually hit all your lengths. So hold that thing flat, and we're going to begin clicking it down, staying a little bit lower than we were in the previous position. So now we're jumping to the 1.5 guard, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We have this open, we're tipping it out, and we're going to begin clicking it down and closing that taper lever to hit those lengths. Now the blend is actually starting to come out pretty decent, you know how it is, but obviously we still have some work to do. We haven't touched the 1/2 guard, we have a number 2 guard, and we have some more shear over comb that we're definitely going to deploy towards the end of this haircut to really fine tune it and dial in those little areas that are going to make you struggle. So moving on to this 1/2 guard, again, we'll start with it in the open position, and then we'll begin closing it down little by little. I like to take a couple passes in the open position just to see if it does anything. If it doesn't, my thumb is right there on that lever, clicking it down, and we're going to be dialing in this blend. So this is an excellent time to be working them corners as well. Even when you pick up that 0 guard, even when you got everything going for you, the last thing you want is a big mistake to happen here. So again, even though you could take off more hair by holding that blade, you know, straight across and flat and pushing it all the way down, it's definitely a little safer here to use your corners, use them to your advantage, and go ahead and eliminate some of them dark spots. But keep in mind, we have other techniques. We have our texturizing shears. We have our shear over comb method coming up, and you'll be able to dial in all those little spots that you want to fine tune. So kind of know when to pull off and know when you still need to keep going. So now you can see in the back, after the hair is dry, after I'm done with my blend, I still had some weight in there. So this is a perfect time with the hair dry, with it laying in the direction that you want it to lay, to go through there and just kind of fine tune that up and get that thing to lay the way it should. And as you see, as I do this clipper, as I do the shear over comb, you're going to see it starts to kind of dial in, and now it's laying a whole lot better than it was when I first looked at it. Again, here on the sides, this is just my final tie-in, just making sure that that top length and longer lengths, you know, because it's not easy to blend from, you know, skin all the way up into some fairly long hair. And I get this question all the time, and that's why I use this cut as an example. And now I can use some texturizing, I can use some shear point texturizing, and some shear point tapering, and definitely that shear over comb with that taper comb. And then we can jump over to our texturizing shears as the kind of last thing that we'll do, because everybody's hair grows different. You'll have more hair on one side than you will on the other. That's density, that's the amount of hair per square inch, and we want to even that out. Okay, now there's not a whole lot to edge up in this particular cut, but in Edge Up 101, we showed a lot of examples of people who definitely needed an edge up a little bit more than him. But as far as his hair goes, we're definitely not edging up the front. It's better to keep that natural for him, and we're just going to edge up his sideburns a little bit, and pretty much the skin and everywhere else is already blown out, so we're not gonna have to worry about that. So I like to stand behind him like we talked about in the razor video. I like to take a stroke with the grain and then take a stroke either against the grain or across the grain. Moving into the enhancements, Sean Cuts Hair color card. Love this thing. I got this nice airbrush that's cordless that actually works and doesn't give me too much trouble. I've been actually testing it now for probably like 3 months, and it's just fantastic. So this is pretty straightforward what you see in this particular cut, but Enhancement 101, we went into all the different methods of enhancements and all the different things that you can do to bring your cut out and to bring your photo out so that you can take the best photos you can so you can help advertise your business. And beyond that, we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna style him up. And now that we've put in the work, we did this haircut and we got everything the way we wanted to get, we get to get those great photographs, we get to get those great videos, those final spins, and I hope that you guys can do it too. So I really hope that you guys get an opportunity to check out all the phases. I believe there's 12 videos and I'm gonna continue building on them, but it's definitely going to improve your skills because a lot of people are trying to start off way too advanced. They want to jump in and do like the sickest fades right off the rip. And the truth is you have to learn certain things before you get there. You have to learn that your tools are set up the right way because that's going to be a big downfall. You have to learn how to debulk properly so that you can actually see what you're doing. And there's just so many different things like holding the clipper, and I can go on and on about this, but you will catch it in the phases, man. With that being said, man, today's kind of a bit of a celebration because this video is going to coincide with me hitting 100,000 subscribers on this channel, man. And it has been the most difficult journey imaginable for me. YouTube absolutely despises me. They hate me. They do not let me get shown to anybody. My views take like years to accumulate, and then people start seeing videos. Like people are seeing videos from like 3 years ago that I'm like, why are you watching that? Like why are you not watching these new ones? I put so much work into these new ones. Beyond that, I know that I've helped a lot of people. I know that a lot of people have dropped me some kind comments, and if you guys would consider it, man, we're running something special on the channel. It's called the Barber Tuition Initiative, where basically I'm asking for you guys, I'm asking for some contributions, the amount of a single haircut. Just if we all work together, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go pay off some barber tuition in full for some people who are struggling. So that's my plan. That's what I want to do with the fame that I'm accumulating on YouTube. I want to take my movement towards the good. I want to try to do something really good with the stuff that's happening on my YouTube channel. And thank you guys so much for my 100,000 subs because it's very more, it's super meaningful for me to hit this 100,000 subs because this has been so hard. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never gotten any bit of help from YouTube at all. This has just been you guys coming here, you guys doing it, and we built the army from scratch. And you know what, man? We're gonna keep rocking. I don't care about the views. I don't care about the playtime. I don't care about none of that. All I care about is helping you guys out and helping you guys grow. We got some exciting things coming up, and if you guys wanna help me out, you guys wanna help me do battle with this garbage ass algorithm, with this trash YouTube views that I get, if you guys wanna help me out, man, a big help is just hitting that like button and dropping a comment. And with that being said, man, this is the YouTube Barber Academy, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.